Introducing Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Hey everybody, it's Patrick Kraus with Jet Midwest. Welcome back to the Nose to Tail podcast. I'm here with Dennis Sawyer from Twin MRO. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
As always, we'd like to start with maybe a little background of how you got into aviation and maybe how your career got to where it is today, and tell us what that journey looks like.
Well, I started out coming out of the Navy, the service. So got out of the service, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I found an engine shop in East Granby, Connecticut, Gas Turbine Corporation, and interviewed and was hired in the machining area. From there, two mentors in my life sort of took me underneath their wing and said, you're going to do this way, and you're going to do this way, and you're going to do it right. And ever since, I've been staying in the aviation industry, and today it's about 39 years.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And so I started out in a machine shop, went to a component repair shop. I went into my own business, sold my business, ran a welding company for a little while, and then ended up at Twin as director of global sales. And it's not any place where I thought I'd end up being and where I am. So it's
an interesting transition from Navy. Now, did you work with aircraft while you were in the Navy?
Worked with aircraft, submarine, various parts, whatever needed to be done. Okay. And we made it.
Very good. So then you go into fabrication, and it's interesting to talk about mentors. I think there's always some pivotal points in our careers where somebody gives you some advice or somebody leads you down a path, so it's always good. Is there a pivotal moment in your career that really was that moment where you really woke up to what aviation could be and really springboard you forward?
Starting out at that engine shop, there was a welder that really put into my head that it's got to be done and it's got to be done right. You can't just rush it. Get it done. And I did something wrong. And fortunately, it was on an industrial gas turbine, so you could fix it. And this person literally pulled me out of this case that I was riveting by the back of my neck. And at that point, he stayed with me after hours. We worked till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to fix what I made a mistake at. And he did that on his own time. And ever since, I have remembered that. And I said, you got to do it right the first time. And that woke me up and said, this is what I want to do. So he was a very pivotal part of my life.
Yeah, and I think probably in today's day and age with the young folks, and I've had this dialogue with a couple people, how challenging it could be for them to get an entry into aviation, let alone be wowed by it. I think it's maybe a little bit lost on people that it's so convenient to go to the airport, walk down a hallway, and walk down just on an airplane. It's like all the other things that happen just kind of get ignored. So certainly for young folks, it's tough to get that exposure. So it's great to got that one moment. So tell me a little bit about Twin MRO. What kind of services are you guys providing? And what maybe is that one thing or two things that you guys are really known for and really great at?
Well, Twin started out as a fabrication shop, tooling and fabrication shop in, I think, 1986. The owner was the founder of Windsor Aeromotive. So at 68, he started his shop, when most of us think about retiring. And he was an amazing man. It transitioned into more out of the fabrication shop to a MRO in around year 2000, supporting the PW4000, PW2000, and the Pratt engines, because we were right in Pratt's backyard. So it's very convenient. Over the years, it has grown. The owner passed away, and actually the company turned into an employee-owned company. We have 120 employees, owners right now, which is phenomenal. From where we're way before. The engines we support now is a lot more. It's the 4000, the PW2000, V2500, CFM56, CF6, GP7000, and we're doing component support for the GTF as well. So it's come a long way, and we've grown over the years. And being there, this is my 18th year there, and it's exciting because now it's an employee-owned company. You see the younger people coming in. And you mentioned something about, young people getting into the industry. And seeing people come into the industry as owners now of a company and seeing them grow and seeing the opportunities that I got now given to them, it's unbelievably rewarding.
That's fantastic. We certainly love the idea of being able to mentor and bring them along. I would agree. I've enjoyed in 25 plus years at Jet Midwest, really enjoyed being able to have people come in, oftentimes in entry-level jobs, and find their way and maneuver through the open channels. And, we reward hard work and dedication to the task. And so we've got people who've been able to go from being our director of quality right now, started as a receiving clerk, and he's built himself up and built his career, and we've supported all of that. So we really have enjoyed watching the last, especially 10 years, as our growth has gone kind of exponential.
Yes.
It's been really neat to watch people grow with us. So, and I love hearing the impact of an employee-owned company. That's awesome. It's awesome people take an emotional step for themselves, say this really means a lot. And the decisions that they make, I know for me as an owner, the decisions I make, the good ones and the bad ones, impact not just my 141 employees, but their spouses and their kids and their retirements and their health insurance and everything else that we have going on. And so it's important to us as owners that we're trying to always have that right decision made as many times as we can, because we know the impact it has on people.
It's a big family.
Yeah.
That's what it turns out to be.
So I recall the first time I'd ever heard of you guys, I had bought some PW2000 material from American, oddly enough, who had taken possession of two 757s that were Pratt powered from Boeing after they purchased TWA. So they actually orders that Boeing forced American, at some level, forced maybe isn't a fair word, but their transaction was required to happen, so it did. So American flew those for a little bit, and when the engines went into the shop, they went to Delta, and they said, we don't want to fix these. And so the parts stayed at Delta for 10 years.
Wow.
And Delta finally said, hey, you got to take this stuff back. It's not ours. So they whatever deal again they did, and I went in and bought the material, and what ended up happening was Delta was sending you guys the Pratt 2000 material, the subcomponents to be fixed, and we had all these Twin MRO, and I'm like, man, what is this Twin MRO thing? I never heard of these guys before. So that was the first time I'd actually seen your tag and kind of experienced what kind of product lines you guys were working on. And it sounds like you have a pretty exciting future. There's a lot of product lines you guys spit out. I mean, that's a huge growth in the last 10, 15 years.
We've seen a big growth in it, and we're looking at new engines too down the road. We know that, some of these engines being retired, the 4000s, you're seeing less and less. The 2000s, it's not there as much as it was before. And we understand that, and we want to be more proactive. Just sitting by and saying, let's live off of our legacy engines and things like that.
Well, I would certainly say a role like yours is one that actually is going to extend the life of those engines, right? Because you're salvaging some of those pieces that maybe otherwise would have been thrown into the scrap heap, or engines that would not be able to be repaired themselves, right? So that's good. So everybody's got good stories. I know we were talking right before about the headsets, right?
Yeah.
And you said your dad was a pilot,
yes.
And you had a chance maybe sit second seat with him.
Yeah, he flew small planes, the Cessnas, the Piper Cubs, the Cherokees, and things like that. We used to go on trips. We had a local airport by, you walk up, you put a quarter in the soda machine, you pull the bottle out, and the owner of the airport yells at you, you better bring back the bottle. And so it's a family airport. And we used to fly out there all the time, and we just do day trips and circle around and things like that. But it meant so much being up in the air, looking down, going, wow, that's what that looks like. That looks like. And it's an amazing feeling. And then you get the feelings, when you're flying and he throws something at you, that's not supposed to be down there. We must be lost. And, all of a sudden you're an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, and you're going, oh, we're lost. We just can't pull over to the next cloud and get out. Those memories will stay with me forever. And, my father passed away about 15 years ago, but those things stay with me all the time. And I have pictures of a Piper Cubs and everything else in my office, and it reminds me of him. And
that's awesome. That's a good story. It's interesting how maybe a minute exposure to aviation at that point in your life, how maybe that impacts how you perceive things. My grandfather was a pilot, and he was actually head of the Air National Guard during World War II, so he flew quite a bit, and aviation was always in his blood. He's from Wichita, so a lot of aviation there, especially at that time in life. But my brother and sister and I owned the company. When we got into aviation, we didn't really equate those two things. We were looking at a business opportunity and certainly had all of this passion that gets developed around aviation. And I'm sure my grandfather would have loved to have seen where we've gotten to today, because we barely believe it most days.
Yeah.
Ashley's looking at me over there like she doesn't believe it either. Cheers. Maybe give me some insight from maybe your industry perspective as where you see things going, specifically on the engine supply chain. I know we've gotten a lot of vendors who've come back an awful lot in the last couple of years recovering from COVID, but they're still struggling for component supply. I don't know that that's as prevalent in all sides. So on the engine side, maybe you can speak to how that supply chain looks and how maybe you guys are maneuvering to position yourselves there.
Well, we've seen the impact of the same thing. We've seen the shortages. We're still hitting most of our turn times. It has affected turn times. During COVID, we were fortunate. We have a diversified product line. We support the freight industry and the commercial industry and the military. So if one's down, the other one's up. But we have seen the supply chain not recover as fast enough. Manpower is not a problem really for us right now. Equipment's not a problem for us right now. It's getting details back into the parts so we can get them out, even to the OEMs. We do a lot with the OEMs. And what's holding us up is a lot of those details. Still missing material. Inconel material is still missing to support these products, that we can make the parts. We're authorized to make the details, but there's no material out there. So it is impacting tremendously the turn times, as we can put it that way. We've recovered again, like Twin has recovered from that by bringing on more people and more equipment and keeping people employed. But not all companies are, like you said, are at that point yet. And if we're picking up and we're offloading to our vendors, like the plating companies and things, they're not caught up yet. And that is affecting the market tremendously. And we've increased our inventory of parts, but you could put in a part, you order 1,000 parts, you decide to order 2,000 parts, you're still not going to get them any faster.
No.
It's still affecting the market today, and it is affecting our company as well.
We'll continue this discussion on the next episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast presented by Jet Midwest. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to our channel.